Hello and welcome. I'm Natalie. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to show you start to finish how I created a clean and simple card. And then I will show you how I created 5 other cards that use the same design idea but were made with different techniques. And that way you'll be able to reproduce this idea if you like it using whatever tools and supplies you have at home. So to start with, I have got a piece of smooth white card, a circle-ish stamp, and 3 shades of blue ink. I've got chipped sapphire, faded jeans, and stormy sky. And what I'm going to do is stamp 3 circles, one above the other, equidistant apart, with the darkest stamp at the top, the middle shade in the middle, and the lightest one at the bottom. So I stamped my middle circle first, roughly in the middle of the paper, and I had to stamp it 3 times to get a really nice smooth impression. And then I shifted my paper down about 5 centimeters and stamped the top circle. And again, I did that 3 times to get a nice smooth impression. The look I'm going for is very uniform, so I want my stamps in the same orientation and equal distance apart, and the stamp positioner is probably, I would say, essential to this process because I'm having to stamp multiple times in each position and I want my stamp to stay the same way round each time. If I tried to do this with an acrylic block, I don't think I'd do a very good job of it. So I think, yes, a stamp positioner is really important for this kind of thing. So once all my 3 circles were done, I wanted to create a mask. So I put 2 layers of masking paper in my positioner and stamped the stamp. I didn't need a particularly good impression because I'm just going to cut this out with some scissors. And I used 2 layers of masking paper because I find it is much easier to cut when there are 2 layers. 1 layer is just a bit flimsy for this kind of cutting. To repair the masking paper where I initially cut into it, I just add a little bit of tape, it bridges the gap. And then I take my stamp cardstock and dust it all over with my old sock full of corn flour to remove any sticky residue or static that might affect my heat embossing, because that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to place the mask around one of the circles and add a branch stamp using some clear embossing ink. I can use an acrylic block for this because the embossing ink gives really good coverage the first time you press it down. For my embossing, I'm using Cosmic Shimmer Bright Gold Detail Embossing Powder because it's my favourite gold. It's a lovely bright gold, as the name suggests, not greeny or brassy at all. And because I use my mask, my stamping is only inside the circle. There's no stamping or gold embossing powder on the outside. And now it's time for the magic to happen. This is my favourite part, where that dull powder turns to the beautiful, bright, shiny gold. And now I'm just going to repeat that process with different branch stamps. These stamps I think are pretty much all from charity shops. I've no idea what the brand is, but if you've got branchy stamps at home, then you use what you've got. You don't need to use the same stamps as me. So I hope you can see the design idea coming together. 3 uniform, regular, different shade circles, equal distance apart, and each one has a gold heat embossed branchy stamp inside it. It's almost as if you're looking out through the hole in the card at a gold leaf or branch on the outside of wherever you are. So here's the end result of the stamping and embossing, and I'm really happy with it. I think that gold against the various blues looks absolutely gorgeous. And now to create the actual card, I'm going to cut a panel out of my stamped piece of paper using one of the Sizzix dies, and then I'm going to cut another one slightly larger using the larger Sizzix die and layer them one on top of the other on top of a 4x6 card blank, and that creates a really clean and simple look. To finish off this particular card, I'm adding a simple sentiment, lots of love, in a typewritten font, and I'm stamping it about 1/3 of the way up in between the bottom two circles, and I'm using the chipped sapphire ink, so there is only one tone on this. I didn't want to introduce black or anything else like that. Right, that's this card done. Let's look at the rest of the design ideas. So as promised, here are lots of different cards made from one design idea, but using a variety of techniques. So no matter what you've got in your craft room, you should probably be able to reproduce something like this if you would like to. So this is the one we've just made. We don't need to talk about that anymore. This is one made in a similar fashion. So I did the stamping and then the heat embossing on top, but instead of making one big panel, I made a smaller panel by cutting it out, mounting it again on a piece slightly larger, and then adding a stacked typed sentiment there. And so that's the same, exactly the same technique, but just a slightly different look. So this is a Christmas card, same design idea, but different techniques. I used a circle die to make a stencil, so I cut 3 circles out of a piece of masking paper, blended the same inks through them, and then I die cut out some silver snowflakes, but then I also used the circle die to die cut the edges of the snowflakes so they perfectly align with the edges of the circles, and then just glued them on. And again, I did a small panel with a typewritten sentiment there. This one, similar idea, but instead of stenciling, I blended some cardstock and then splattered on some water. Then what I did next was I stuck some die cut white snowflakes onto the circles, and then I die cut the snowflake and background together to make the circles, and then added them onto the card. Please excuse the pitter patter, it's raining and I craft in the conservatory, so it gets a bit loud, but I will be very quick with this bit so it won't last too long. This one I used a 1-inch circle punch to punch holes at regular intervals in a piece of hammered white cardstock. And then on another piece of cardstock I blended some colours and put those behind the cardstock so these circles are recessed, and then added some gold glitter butterflies, which again I did die cut some of the bits off of them so they fit snugly. So hopefully you can sort of see the recessed part. It's just another way of creating that same look. These two I use watercolour, so I watercoloured some bits of paper in different shades of watercolour. I then painted with this one using gold paint, and with this one I used a gold gel pen, and then I got my 1-inch circle punch and punched out the circles and added them on and added some sentiments. So it's the same idea, having 3 circles with different shades of ink or colour, and then putting something in them as if they're almost like a window looking through to the outside or whatever's on the other side, and then just arranging them nicely on a card and adding some sentiments. So I hope you've found this helpful. If you want me to do a video on any of these cards in particular, just to show you the technique I used, then do let me know and I can do that for you. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you back here very soon. Bye for now.